Introduction to the Ordinary World. Kyle's day began as ordinary as any for a 15-year-old boy with a penchant for wandering through the mega-malls of Arcadia City. The towering neon lights, the bustle of families, and the dizzying hum of escalators all blended into an endless symphony of modern civilization. It was a place where thousands could be lost in plain sight, where individuality was swallowed by the sheer mass of life. Yet today, something far from ordinary was about to unfold. Dressed in a faded denim jacket and sneakers that had seen better days, Kyle wandered aimlessly through the mall's glittering corridors, his mind elsewhere. This mega mall was a haven of sorts for him, a place where he could blend into the background, unnoticed and unbothered. It was his escape from school and from the responsibilities of being a teenager in a city that never seemed to stop moving. As he passed by one of the many holographic displays showcasing some new hyper-realistic product demo, something unusual caught his attention out of the corner of his eye. A figure, small and out of place, shuffled uncertainly near a shop filled with BioWare devices. Kyle squinted, focusing on what appeared to be a child. But as he got closer, he realized this was no ordinary child. The figure was an alien, a young one with wide glowing amber eyes that seemed to radiate both curiosity and fear. Its skin had a smooth grayish hue that shimmered faintly under the fluorescent lights. It wore an oversized jacket that looked comically large on its tiny frame, accentuating how out of place it appeared in this human world. Kyle stopped in his tracks, crouching down slightly to meet the alien's gaze as they locked eyes. "Hey," he said, his voice low and careful not to startle the strange being. "You okay?" The alien blinked up at him, those golden eyes reflecting the bright lights of the mall, as if absorbing them. Then, hesitantly, it extended a hand as if asking for help. Its small fingers, more like delicate tendrils, wrapped around Kyle's hand in a way that felt oddly comforting. The touch was cool but not unpleasant. "You're lost, aren't you?" Kyle murmured, a pang of sympathy tugging at him. The alien child didn't respond verbally, but the way it clung to Kyle's hand answered enough. Just as Kyle was about to ask where the alien had come from, a sudden flurry of movement erupted around them. Shoppers bustled past, unaware of the strange scene unfolding. From the corner of his eye, Kyle spotted a group of heavily armored security officers, enforcement, patrolling the area. He recognized them by their bulky, futuristic exosuits. Kyle's heart skipped a beat. There was no mistaking it. They were searching for something or someone. Without thinking, Kyle gently pulled the alien closer to him, instinctively shielding it from view. "Come on," he whispered urgently, leading the small creature behind a large potted plant. His mind raced. He didn't know why, but something told him that if mall enforcement found this kid, things would go very wrong. They slipped into a quieter part of the mall away from the main crowds. Kyle's mind was running through a dozen different scenarios. Why was this alien kid here, of all places? And why were the mall enforcement looking for them? After finding a secluded bench, Kyle crouched again to face the alien. "Who are you?" he asked, trying to keep his voice calm. "What are you doing here?" For a moment, there was silence. The alien's eyes shimmered, and then, to Kyle's surprise, a small voice echoed in his mind, not in words, but in images and emotions. Flashes of a starship, distant galaxies, a throne, and an overwhelming sense of danger. The final image showed someone who resembled the alien child, but older and regal. There was no mistaking it. Kyle was in the presence of something far more significant than he had realized. "Your royalty," he whispered, barely believing his own words. The alien child, though young and vulnerable, was indeed the heir to a galactic throne, a throne that was currently under threat. But before Kyle could ask anything further, heavy footsteps echoed once again. The mall enforcement had circled back. He didn't have much time. "We need to get out of here," Kyle said quickly, glancing around as his mind scrambled for a plan. The mall was massive, a labyrinth of stores and hidden corners. but there was no place to truly hide for long. Kyle scooped up the alien into his arms, surprisingly light for its size, and started moving quickly through the crowds. The alien clung tightly to him, its wide eyes darting nervously, but it didn't protest. The deeper they went into the mall, the more intense the search became. Kyle could see more officers joining the hunt, scanning every corner with their high-tech visors. He ducked into a store pretending to browse, but knew it was only a matter of time before they would be found. Suddenly, the alien tugged at Kyle's sleeve and pointed towards a large sign ahead that read "Maintenance." An idea sparked in Kyle's mind. If they could access the maintenance tunnels beneath the mall, they might slip away unnoticed. He made a beeline for the door, glancing around nervously. It was restricted access, but Kyle had snuck into these places before. With a quick glance to ensure no one was watching, he slipped inside just as heavy footsteps approached. The maintenance tunnels were dark and narrow, a stark contrast to the bright, bustling mall above. Pipes ran along the ceiling and faint machinery hummed through the walls as they moved deeper into shadows. Kyle slowed his pace and set down the alien so they could walk on their own. "Stay close," he whispered while guiding their way through dimly lit passages. They moved in silence for several minutes, tension palpable as distant voices echoed through tunnels, likely security officers still scouring upper levels, but down here in shadows they seemed safe for now. Kyle's mind raced with thoughts about what he should do with an alien royal hair. He had no idea how deep this conspiracy went, but knew one thing for certain. This was bigger than just mall enforcement. Someone wanted this kid found, and they were willing to tear apart the entire city to do it. Just then, a low rumble vibrated through the floor and lights flickered ominously above them. Kyle frowned and stopped in his tracks. What was that? The alien looked up at him wide-eyed, genuine fear reflected in its gaze, just before either could react. The walls groaned around them, and with deafening crash, a section ahead collapsed, sending debris flying everywhere. Kyle shielded the alien as best as he could, heart pounding in his chest. They were trapped. As dust settled around them, revealing large metal door partially exposed behind rubble, it looked ancient, far older than rest of mall infrastructure. Kyle stared at it, then back at the alien whose glowing eyes were fixed on door. Taking a step forward, its small hand reached out as if drawn to it. "What is it?" Kyle asked, unsure if alien could understand him, but felt pull. Something significant about that door. Before he could question further, the alien gently touched it and with low hum began to open, revealing passageway bathed in eerie blue light. The air rushing out cold yet filled with unmistakable scent far older than mall itself. Kyle swallowed hard, realizing this wasn't just about hiding anymore. Whatever lay behind door held key everything. He looked at alien, who gave small reassuring nod, as if saying this way forward. With deep breath, Kay stepped into unknown. The alien child at his side, unaware unimaginable secrets lay ahead. The encounter. Kyle's heart raced as he and the alien child ventured deeper into the passageway. The air felt charged, almost electric, and each step echoed against the cold metal walls. Strange symbols adorned the surfaces, glowing faintly with a luminescence that seemed to pulse in rhythm with their heartbeats. The alien child, still clinging to Kyle's side, looked around with wide, curious eyes, as if recognizing something profound in the environment. A sense of connection. As they moved further in, Kyle couldn't shake the feeling that this place was significant, not just to the alien but to him as well. The symbols on the walls seemed to resonate with something deep within him, like a long-forgotten memory stirring to life. He glanced down at the alien, who was now gazing up at him with an expression of trust and hope. It was a small creature, but in that moment, it felt like they were bound together by fate. "Do you know what this place is?" Kyle asked softly, his voice barely above a whisper. The alien tilted its head again, its golden eyes shimmering with emotion. In response, Kyle felt a sudden rush of images flood his mind. Visions of starships soaring through galaxies, planets bathed in vibrant colors, and a throne room filled with light and energy. It was overwhelming. Kyle staggered slightly as he tried to process the images. You're connected to this place," he murmured, realization dawning on him. The alien nodded slowly, as if affirming his thoughts. The first challenge. Just then, a loud rumble echoed through the passageway. Kyle's instincts kicked in. He turned to see dust cascading from the ceiling. "We need to keep moving," he urged, gripping the alien's hand tightly. They hurried along the corridor until they reached a large chamber illuminated by an otherworldly glow. The chamber was vast and circular, with high ceilings that seemed to stretch endlessly upward. In the center stood a pedestal made of an iridescent material that shimmered like liquid crystal. Upon it lay an ancient artifact, a small orb that pulsated with energy. Kyle felt an inexplicable pull toward it. "What is that?" he asked aloud, his voice echoing in the silence of the chamber. The alien stepped forward cautiously and raised its hand toward the orb. As it did so, Kyle felt a wave of warmth wash over him, a sense of belonging and purpose that he had never experienced before. It was as if the orb recognized them both. Suddenly, a voice resonated in Kyle's mind, not spoken but felt deep within his consciousness. "Guardians of the realm." The words hung in the air like a spell cast over them. "What does that mean?" Kyle whispered, glancing at the alien who appeared equally captivated by the orb's presence. A revelation. Before he could ponder further, images flooded his mind again, this time more vivid and urgent. A galactic council chamber filled with representatives from various worlds. Chaos storms ravaging star systems, and finally, a dark figure shrouded in shadows threatening everything they held dear. Kyle stumbled back slightly, overwhelmed by the intensity of it all. "We have to do something," he exclaimed. "This isn't just about you anymore. It's about everyone." The alien squeezed his hand tighter as if trying to convey understanding through touch alone. Together they approached the pedestal cautiously. As they neared it, the orb began to glow brighter, illuminating intricate carvings on its surface, symbols similar to those on the walls around them. With trembling fingers, Kyle reached out and touched the orb. Instantly, a surge of energy coursed through him. A vision unfolded before his eyes depicting their world intertwined with countless others across galaxies. The Galactic Council. Meanwhile, far away in another realm, the Galactic Council chambers buzzed with an energy that could only be described as barely contained panic. Representatives from 1,000 worlds shifted nervously in their seats, clutching datapads and fiddling with universal translators. The air was thick with pheromones of distress. Even if humans had been allowed in these chambers, they would have recoiled at the scent. At the center stood High Counselor Zix, her crystalline form glittering under harsh lights, as she raised all 4 arms in a desperate attempt to bring order to chaos. "Esteemed colleagues," she implored, her voice cracking under pressure, "I urge you to settle down so we may address this unprecedented situation." A derisive snort echoed through the chamber, followed by a gravelly voice dripping with sarcasm. "Oh yes, let's all calm down and have a civilized chat about impending doom while enjoying some Cirque's tea." All eyes turned toward Ambassador Croc of the Soren Imperium, a massive reptilian figure whose scales shifted colors under stress. He exhaled noxious purple smoke from his bubbling pipe as Zix struggled for composure. "Your sarcasm is neither helpful nor appreciated at this moment," she retorted sharply. Croc waved dismissively. "I apologize for my rudeness while our universe crumbles around us." As holograms flickered above them, displaying real-time maps of chaos storms consuming star systems, Zix continued. "As you can see, these storms have now consumed over 60% of known space." A desperate proposal. The Avonoid representative from Nest Prim squawked indignantly. "But that's impossible. The laws of physics." "More like guidelines at this point," interrupted Dr. Keeks, the tentacled head scientist whose body undulated nervously. "Our understanding is being rewritten faster than we can document it." Cause and effect are becoming subjective. His voice rose above murmurs of disbelief. Just then Zix's crystalline structure vibrated dangerously as she shouted, "Order! We must maintain order." But chaos erupted anew as Croc laughed harshly. "Have you looked outside? Your precious order packed its bags and left on Quantum Express." Dr. Kiwix cleared his throat, a process involving several tentacles, and said cautiously, "If I may, there is one potential solution we haven't yet discussed." Silence fell over the chamber. All eyes turned toward him expectantly. "Speak," Zix urged, hope mingled with dread in her crystalline form. Kiwix spoke slowly. "There is one species thriving amidst these chaos storms: humanity." The council erupted into pandemonium. Shouts of disbelief filled the air until Zix roared for silence again. "We need order." Croc leaned forward with a predatory grin. Well, well, who would have thought humanity's insanity would become an evolutionary advantage? Dr. Kiwix nodded gravely. "Our observations show human-controlled systems not only resist chaos storms, but stabilize neighboring regions." A holographic representation of Earth appeared, calm amidst swirling maelstroms consuming other systems, a beacon of stability against encroaching chaos. "But they're primitives," sputtered an Avonoid representative incredulously. Croc barked out laughter. "Shows what you know. Humans are about as primitive as black holes are cuddly." Dr. Kiwix continued, "We must seek help from humans." Reluctant agreement rippled through council members. Even staunch anti-human factions couldn't argue against evidence before them. Zix sighed deeply. "Very well. Initiate contact with human government." Back in the passageway. Back in the hidden passageway beneath Arcadia City, the orb pulsed brightly beneath Kyle's fingertips as images continued flooding his mind. Visions intertwining their fates together across galaxies. "This is bigger than us," he breathed out, slowly realizing weight behind every word spoken by ancient artifact before him. It wasn't just about saving one royal hair. It was about protecting countless worlds facing annihilation. The alien child stood beside him, eyes shimmering brightly, reflecting determination beyond its years. Together, they would face whatever lay ahead. With newfound resolve coursing through their veins, they prepared for what awaited them beyond this hidden sanctuary. The chase begins. Kyle and the alien child stepped cautiously into the passageway, the eerie blue light illuminating their path. The air felt thick with anticipation, and every step echoed against the ancient stone walls. Strange symbols danced along the surfaces, glowing softly as if responding to their presence. Kyle couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, even in this hidden sanctuary. A sense of urgency. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from behind them, an unmistakable sign that the mall enforcement was getting closer. Kyle's heart raced as he turned to the alien. "We need to move now," he urged, grabbing the child's hand tightly. They hurried deeper into the passageway, the light flickering ominously as they ran. As they navigated through the twisting tunnels, Kyle's mind raced with questions. What had he stumbled upon? Why was this alien child so important? And more importantly, who was chasing them? He could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He had to protect this child at all costs. Narrow escapes. They reached a fork in the tunnel, and Kyle hesitated for a moment, glancing back toward the entrance they had just come through. The sounds of heavy footsteps and muffled voices grew louder. "Left or right?" he asked breathlessly, looking at the alien for guidance. The child pointed to the right with a small hand, its golden eyes wide with determination. Trusting its instincts, Kyle took off in that direction. They sprinted down the narrow corridor, dodging low-hanging pipes and debris that had fallen from above. As they ran, Kyle felt an odd connection to this alien child, like they were two pieces of a puzzle that belonged together. He could sense its fear, but also its resilience. It was not just a lost child, but a being of immense potential. The maintenance room. After what felt like an eternity of running, They stumbled into a larger maintenance room filled with old machinery and discarded equipment. The room was dimly lit, shadows creeping along the walls as if alive. Kyle quickly scanned for an exit while trying to catch his breath. Over there. He pointed to a door on the far side of the room. They dashed toward it just as they heard voices approaching from behind them. "Did you see where it went?" one officer barked. "No, it must have slipped through here," another replied. Kyle's pulse quickened. They were running out of time. He pushed open the door and pulled the alien inside just as he heard footsteps enter the maintenance room behind them. They ducked behind a large piece of machinery, holding their breath as they listened intently. A close call. "Split up," one of the officers ordered. "Check every corner. That thing can't have gone far." Kyle felt his heart drop at hearing that thing. It was clear they weren't just searching for a lost child. They were hunting something, or someone, far more significant than he had anticipated. The officers began searching through the room methodically, their heavy boots thudding against the floor as they moved closer to Kyle's hiding spot. He glanced at the alien beside him. It looked terrified but determined, its small hands clenching tightly around his arm. "Stay quiet," Kyle whispered urgently. The alien nodded silently, its wide eyes locked onto his face. Just then, one of the officers approached their hiding spot, peering around suspiciously. Kyle held his breath as he felt a wave of panic wash over him. But before anything could happen, a loud clang echoed from across the room. A nearby shelf had collapsed under its own weight. "Over there!" one officer shouted as they turned their attention away from Kyle and toward the noise. Seizing the opportunity, Kyle grabbed the alien's hand and bolted for another exit at the back of the room. Into the unknown. They dashed through another door leading into a dark corridor that seemed to stretch endlessly ahead. The sounds of pursuit faded behind them, but not completely. Kyle could still hear distant voices echoing through the halls. "What now?" he panted as they paused to catch their breath in a small alcove lined with old maintenance equipment. The alien looked up at him with those glowing amber eyes. There was something almost regal about its gaze now that Kyle had begun to understand its significance. "We need to find somewhere safe," he said softly. "But where?" The child pointed down another corridor that branched off to their left, a path illuminated by faint blue lights similar to those in the passageway they had just escaped from. "Okay." Kyle nodded, feeling an unexplainable pull toward that direction. "Let's go." They moved cautiously down this new path, each step echoing off metal walls that seemed to vibrate with energy. As they walked deeper into this hidden world beneath Arcadia City, Kyle felt an increasing sense of purpose. He wasn't just protecting an alien child anymore. He was part of something much larger than himself. A glimpse into history. As they progressed further along this corridor, strange murals began appearing on the walls. Depictions of celestial battles and ancient beings wielding powers beyond imagination. It was like stepping into a history book, filled with tales of heroism and sacrifice. Kyle stopped abruptly in front of one mural that caught his eye. It showed two figures standing side by side, a regal-looking being resembling his companion, and what appeared to be a human warrior clad in armor. Below them were symbols that seemed to tell a story about unity across worlds. "What is this place?" Kyle wondered aloud, tracing his fingers over one of the symbols as if it might unlock some hidden memory within him. The alien stepped closer and touched another symbol beside it. The moment its fingers made contact, a soft hum resonated through the air around them. Suddenly, images flooded Kyle's mind again. Visions of battles fought long ago, and alliances forged between species across galaxies. It's showing me something," he said breathlessly as he tried to process what he was experiencing. The alien's revelation. The alien child looked up at him with understanding in its eyes. Then it began projecting thoughts directly into Kyle's mind again. "We are connected through time and space." Kyle blinked in surprise at how clearly he understood now. Their fates intertwined across dimensions. This wasn't just about saving an heir. It was about preserving legacies that span eons. Before he could ask more questions or delve deeper into these revelations, another tremor shook through the corridor, followed by distant shouts, echoing ominously from behind them. "We have to move," Kyle urged urgently. Adrenaline surged through him once more as they sprinted further down this ancient path. A new challenge ahead. As they rounded another corner, the corridor opened up into what appeared to be an enormous chamber filled with strange machinery and glowing crystals embedded in every surface. In its center stood an imposing structure resembling both throne and altar, a place that radiated power. "Is this your throne?" Kyle asked hesitantly, awe washing over him as he took in grandeur surrounding them. The alien nodded solemnly, its expression shifting from fear to determination. It stepped forward boldly toward throne-like structure. Kyle followed closely behind, feeling compelled by unseen forces guiding them both. Suddenly, the ground shook violently beneath them. Cracks formed along walls, sending shards flying everywhere. Panic surged within him, but before he could react, the throne began glowing brightly, illuminating the entire chamber. "Get back!" Kyle shouted instinctively, pulling back on Alien's arm, but it stood firm, gazing intently at throne radiating energy. In that moment, Kyle understood. They were standing at crossroads between past, present, and future. Whatever lay ahead would determine not only their fates, but potentially those of countless worlds beyond comprehension. With no time left, they took one last look at each other before stepping forward together towards destiny awaiting them beyond shimmering light. The hidden door. Kyle's heart pounded in his chest as he and the alien child stepped through the ancient metal door. The blue light pulsed gently, as if the air itself was alive in this forgotten passage. The walls were lined with strange symbols, foreign yet hauntingly familiar, etched in a language that seemed to hum with energy. He turned to look at the alien, whose golden eyes were wide with curiosity and a hint of recognition. A sense of connection. Kyle could feel a strange connection, as if this place, this hidden tunnel, was somehow tied to the child's origins. Every instinct screamed that they were stepping into something far beyond anything he could comprehend, yet for some reason, he couldn't turn back. Something urged him to push forward deeper into the unknown. "Let me guess," he muttered under his breath, his voice shaky but laced with sarcasm. "This is where the big dramatic reveal happens, right? Some ancient prophecy, or I don't know, maybe a treasure map to the throne room." The alien tilted its head, clearly not understanding his joke, but there was something almost comforting about its presence. As they walked further into the passageway, Kyle noticed that the symbols on the walls began to glow brighter as they approached. It was as if they were responding to their presence. "What do you think these mean?" Kyle asked, running his fingers over one of the symbols. A warm sensation coursed through him at the contact. The alien child stepped closer and placed its small hand next to Kyle's on the wall. In that instant, a wave of images flooded Kyle's mind. Scenes of ancient battles fought in distant galaxies, alliances forged between species, and a throne room filled with light and power. He staggered back slightly as the visions overwhelmed him. A revelation of heritage. "You're connected to this place." Kyle breathed out slowly, realizing that this wasn't just an escape route. It was a significant part of the alien child's heritage. The child nodded solemnly, its expression shifting from fear to determination. It stepped forward boldly toward a large mural that depicted two figures, one resembling the alien child and another, a regal-looking being, standing side by side. "Is this your family?" Kyle asked hesitantly. The alien nodded again and pointed at the mural. In response, Kyle felt another surge of emotions, love, loss, and an overwhelming sense of duty. It was clear that this child had a legacy to uphold. Suddenly, a tremor shook through the passageway once more, causing dust to rain down from above. "We need to keep moving," Kyle urged, feeling urgency rise within him. They hurried past more murals and symbols until they reached an enormous chamber illuminated by an ethereal glow. The Chamber of Secrets. The chamber was vast and circular, with high ceilings that seemed to stretch endlessly upward. In its center stood a pedestal made of iridescent material shimmering like liquid crystal. Upon it lay an ancient artifact, a small orb pulsating with energy. Kyle felt an inexplicable pull toward it. "What is that?" he asked aloud, his voice echoing in the silence of the chamber. The alien child stepped forward cautiously and raised its hand toward the orb. As it did so, Kyle felt a wave of warmth wash over him, a sense of belonging and purpose that he had never experienced before. It was as if the orb recognized them both. Before he could ponder further, images flooded his mind again, this time more vivid and urgent. A galactic council chamber filled with representatives from various worlds. Chaos storms ravaging star systems, and finally, a dark figure shrouded in shadows threatening everything they held dear. Kyle stumbled back slightly, overwhelmed by the intensity of it all. "We have to do something," he exclaimed. "This isn't just about you anymore. It's about everyone." The alien's resolve. The alien squeezed his hand tighter as if trying to convey understanding through touch alone. Together, they approached the pedestal cautiously. As they neared it, the orb began to glow brighter, illuminating intricate carvings on its surface, symbols similar to those on the walls around them. With trembling fingers, Kyle reached out and touched the orb. Instantly, a surge of energy coursed through him. A vision unfolded before his eyes, depicting their world intertwined with countless others across galaxies. "It's showing me something," he said breathlessly, as he tried to process what he was experiencing. The alien child looked up at him with understanding in its eyes. Then it began projecting thoughts directly into Kyle's mind again. "We are connected through time and space." Kyle blinked in surprise at how clearly he understood now. Their fates intertwined across dimensions. This wasn't just about saving an heir. It was about preserving legacies that spanned eons. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from behind them. Panic surged within him. They were not alone. The pursuers arrived. Heavy footsteps approached rapidly from behind. The mall enforcement had found their trail. "We have to hide," Kyle shouted urgently as adrenaline surged through him once more. They dashed behind a large column in the chamber just as several officers burst into view, armed with advanced scanning devices and determined expressions on their faces. "Split up," one officer barked. "Check every corner." Kyle held his breath as he crouched low beside the alien child. Fear gripped him tightly as they watched officers sweep through the chamber methodically. "Where are you?" one officer called out mockingly into the vastness of the room. Kyle glanced around desperately for an escape route but found none. They were trapped in this ancient sanctuary filled with secrets and history, but also danger. A bold decision. Just then, the orb began pulsating wildly, as if sensing their peril. "What are you doing?" Kyle whispered frantically at it while trying to remain hidden. In response, the orb emitted a bright beam of light illuminating part of the chamber. The officers turned in shock at this sudden display. "Over there," one shouted, pointing toward them. "We need to go," Kyle urged, grabbing hold of the alien's hand tightly once more. Now, they sprinted toward another passageway leading away from the chamber just as blaster fire erupted behind them. The sound echoed ominously against stone walls, sending shivers down Kyle's spine. As they dashed down narrow corridors filled with twisting paths, Kyle could hear voices shouting behind them, growing closer by each second. "Don't look back," he yelled, trying to keep fear at bay. They rounded another corner only for Kyle's heart to drop. Before them stood an enormous metal door sealed shut. A leap of faith. "Help me," he shouted desperately, pushing against it, but it wouldn't budge. The alien child stepped forward, placing its small hand against door's surface. The moment it did, the door began glowing brightly. "What? How?" Kyle gasped, watching in awe as ancient mechanisms whirred into action. With a loud groan, the door slowly creaked open, revealing another hidden pathway beyond. "Go," Kyle urged, pulling the alien inside just before blaster fire erupted again, narrowly missing them. They stumbled into darkness beyond door, heaving breaths echoing around them. What now? Kyle panted, looking around frantically for any sign of safety. But before either could respond, a low rumble shook through ground beneath them, sending vibrations coursing through their bodies. "It's collapsing," Kyle shouted, realizing time was running out. They had no choice but to push forward deeper into unknown territory. With determination ignited within them, they pressed onward into darkness, knowing whatever lay ahead would determine their fates, and potentially those of countless worlds beyond comprehension. Unraveling secrets. The passageway stretched before them, illuminated by the eerie blue light that pulsed rhythmically, almost as if it were alive. Kyle felt a mix of anticipation and dread as they ventured deeper into the unknown. The walls were adorned with strange symbols that seemed to shimmer and shift, creating an otherworldly atmosphere. The air was thick with the scent of ancient stone and something else, something almost electric. The connection deepens. As they walked, Kyle glanced down at the alien child beside him. Its golden eyes sparkled with curiosity, reflecting the glow of the symbols around them. Despite the danger lurking behind them, he felt a strange sense of calm wash over him. It was as if this place had a purpose that involved both of them. "Do you understand any of this?" Kyle asked quietly, gesturing to the symbols on the walls. The alien child shook its head, but reached out a small hand to touch one of the glowing symbols. Instantly, a wave of images flooded Kyle's mind again. Visions of starships soaring through galaxies, ancient battles fought in distant realms, and a throne room filled with light and power. He staggered slightly, overwhelmed by the intensity of it all. "This is incredible," he breathed out, realizing that they were standing at the crossroads of history and destiny. A hidden legacy. The alien child looked up at him with an expression that conveyed both urgency and understanding. It pointed toward a large mural on the wall depicting two figures, one resembling the alien child and another, a regal-looking being, standing side by side. Below them were intricate carvings that seemed to tell a story about unity across worlds. "Is this your family?" Kyle asked hesitantly. The alien nodded solemnly, its expression shifting from fear to determination. It stepped closer to the mural, tracing its fingers over the figures as if trying to connect with its heritage. In that moment, Kyle understood. This child wasn't just lost. It was part of something monumental, a legacy that spanned galaxies. Suddenly, another tremor shook through the passageway, causing dust to rain down from above. "We need to keep moving," Kyle urged, feeling urgency rise within him. They hurried past more murals and symbols until they reached an enormous chamber illuminated by an ethereal glow. The Chamber of Power. With determination ignited within them, they pressed onward into darkness, knowing whatever lay ahead would determine their fates, and potentially those of countless worlds beyond comprehension. The Galactic Council's dilemma. As Kyle and the alien child stepped through the ancient doorway, they found themselves in a vast chamber filled with swirling lights and intricate symbols that pulsed with energy. The air was thick with anticipation, and Kyle felt a sense of purpose wash over him. He glanced at the alien, whose golden eyes reflected the shimmering lights, and realized that they were about to uncover secrets that could change everything. A new beginning. "Are you ready?" Kyle asked, his voice steady despite the uncertainty surrounding them. The alien nodded, a look of determination etched across its small face. Together, they approached the center of the chamber where a pedestal awaited them, adorned with an orb that seemed to hum with power. As Kyle reached out to touch the orb, a surge of energy coursed through him. Visions flooded his mind. Scenes of chaos storms tearing through galaxies, a dark figure looming over worlds, and finally, a glimpse of hope, a united front of various species standing together against the impending doom. "This is it," Kyle whispered, understanding dawning upon him. We have to unite everyone to stop this threat. The alien child stepped closer, placing its small hand on the orb alongside Kyle's. In that moment, they felt an overwhelming connection, a bond that transcended time and space. The orb glowed brighter, illuminating the chamber as if acknowledging their resolve. The call to action. Suddenly, images began to materialize before them, holographic projections of the Galactic Council chambers filled with representatives from various worlds. They were in disarray, panic evident in their movements as they struggled to maintain order amidst the chaos. "We need to reach out to them," Kyle urged, feeling a sense of urgency. "They need to know what's happening." The alien child nodded again, its expression resolute. Together, they focused on the orb, channeling their thoughts into it. A beam of light shot forth from the orb, projecting their message across galaxies, a call for unity against the chaos storms threatening their existence. The Galactic Council's response. Meanwhile, back in the Galactic Council chambers, High Counselor Zix stood at the center of an amphitheater filled with representatives from 1,000 worlds. The atmosphere was charged with tension as holographic displays flickered ominously above them. "Esteemed colleagues," Zix began, her voice strained yet commanding, "we have received a message from Earth, a plea for unity against the chaos storms ravaging our galaxy." A murmur rippled through the assembly as disbelief washed over many representatives. "Why should we trust humans?" one voice called out from the back. "Because they are our only hope," Zix replied firmly. "Their resilience has proven effective against these storms. We must join forces if we are to survive." Ambassador Croc leaned forward in his seat, his scales shifting colors as he processed this new information. "Perhaps it's time we set aside our differences and work together," he said reluctantly. The alliance formed. With reluctant agreement rippling through the council members, Zix called for a vote on forming an alliance with humanity. One by one, representatives raised their appendages in support until finally, a consensus was reached. As news spread across galaxies about this unprecedented alliance between humans and aliens, hope began to blossom amidst despair. Kyle and the alien child watched from their hidden sanctuary as holographic images of various species preparing for battle flashed before them. "We did it." Kyle breathed out in disbelief. "We actually did it." But just as relief washed over him, another tremor shook through their sanctuary. A reminder that while they had made significant strides, danger still loomed on the horizon. A final confrontation. With renewed determination, Kyle turned to the alien child. "We need to prepare for what's coming next," he said firmly. "Together we can face whatever challenges lie ahead." The alien nodded in agreement, its golden eyes shining brightly with resolve. They stepped forward into the heart of their hidden sanctuary once more, ready to face whatever awaited them beyond those ancient doors. As they ventured deeper into unknown territory, Kyle felt an unshakable bond between them solidifying further. They were no longer just two beings lost in a vast universe. They were allies united by purpose and destiny. And so began their journey, not just to save one world, but to protect countless others from impending doom. A journey filled with adventure, friendship, and hope for all species across galaxies.